everybody, it's SaskiaSketches, and oh my goodness, I've not made a YouTube video in ages. Well, I've not done a voiceover YouTube video in ages, so yeah, this is crazy. But today I'm going to be doing something that's a little bit different. I'm not going to be drawing in this video, but I'm going to be explaining a couple tips on how to make cool sketchbook pages, which I think is really fun and I hope helpful as well. So hope you enjoy. Alright, I've got 7 tips for you, and I'm just going to jump right into it. My first tip is to plan your sketchbook pages out. I've actually got a really big sketchbook, so I've got a lot of space to work with. So I usually do quite a couple sketches on one page. So in order to make it look as aesthetically pleasing as possible, in order to achieve good composition in my sketchbook pages, it's really important that I plan them out. And this is a page that I started. I have not finished it in its entirety yet, but you'll see a couple more detailed sketches on the bottom, but you'll see what I've done here at the top. Very, very faintly, I've planned out where I'm going to have every single sketch. So if you look closely, you might be able to see like a mouth here and a snout, some ears. You know, there's going to be an animal there. Spoiler alert, it's going to be a panda. And there's going to be like growling. But the point is that by planning out where I'm going to sketch every element of my page before I actually sketch it in, I have creative control and over where my sketches are going and how I can position them on the page properly, which is just really good in terms of composition, because maybe you have an idea in your mind, but when you actually sketch it out, you find that, oh no, I don't have enough space to put all the sketches in that I wanted on this page. So it's a really good idea to plan them out before you get started. Just like, your basic first sketch layer when you're doing a larger piece. My second tip is to cram as much in a sketchbook page as you possibly can, because that generates a lot of visual interest. So instead of just doing when you have just one whole big sketchbook page like this, and you just do this one sketch in the corner, or only this one sketch at the bottom or this one sketch at the top. Just think of creative ways of how much more you can incorporate into a sketchbook page, because on this one I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-ish sketches. This one is a bit bigger, but I've, as you can see, I've filled up the empty space as well, which is my next tip. Is that you can fill any open spaces that you have left with symbols or with text. Right here I've put Kling and Klang's names, as well as just a couple triangles and different shapes. And for this one, I've just done little hearts around it, and I've named the characters as well, and that helps fill some of that empty space up, because that really helps make the page look a lot more interesting. And my fourth tip, we're just speeding through this. My fourth tip is to let your sketches overlap. And letting your sketches overlap can come in a different, variety of intensity, I suppose. So I have some mild overlapping in this page, as you can see. Like here you have the hog in the back, and then the zebra's mane here, and the ear, it's cutting off that sketch a little bit, and the bear's rose right there. Or over here where you have the feet that was probably going to be there, it's cut off by this sketch. Or over here there's the head of the giraffe in front of the peacock, something like that. And when you allow your sketches to overlap like that, you are essentially just using more of the space. Or over here you have the bear's claw and the hog's jawline. So there's a lot of overlap in this page, and it creates depth first of all, and it creates just a more interesting silhouette to your sketches. And then there is a more extreme example over here where I've gone with the colouring of the fire. This one you see that this sketch of the jaguar laying here, so like there's still this bit of the sketch and these spots as well, and then we've got there's the paw and everything, and the fire is all overlapping on top of that. The only thing I don't really like about this one is that the what's it called, the colours blender marker kind of smudged the line work, which I didn't like, but you know, it creates a really interesting look when you do it like this. Then my next tip is contrast. Contrast is really important, and there's so many different types of contrast that you can use. In this, well, I'll hide this one for a moment. In this one, this was not intentional, but there's one sketch that jumps out immediately, and it's this one, and that's just because the shade of orange that I used for this sketch of Sebastian is just slightly different it's just a little bit more saturated than the orange that I used for the other one. So if you wanted one sketch to stand out, this is a really good way to do it. And it's also a lesson that you need to, you know, mix your colours and test them previously before you use them. And then on this page, you can tell obviously the contrast here is that these sketches have been these bottom two. I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Nobody's ever done that before. That these sketches on the bottom, so that one and that one, have been well, coloured in with gouache. So there's in person there's a textural difference as well, because you can see the brush strokes. But the obviously the contrast first is, you know, coloured and not coloured, and there's more detail in these as well. You know, there's lots of different types of contrast that you can use. You can use and they're not mutually exclusive, right? You can use contrast in size, in detail, in colour, in line work, in texture, in shading. You can use negative space and style, anything and everything that you can, you know, that you can think of in terms of contrast. You can use in your sketchbook pages to make them look interesting, and just, you know, play around with it. Be you know, on the lookout for things that you can use. And then that brings me to my next point, and that is emphasize the shape of your sketches, which is also, you know, there's a few things that you can do, and this one is a bit extreme because I actually cut around the page to emphasize the shape of the character, like this, which is a bit extreme, and I don't do this often, but it does make for a really cool look. Something that I do a lot more often is to darken the character's outline. So, for example, for this sketch, you'll see that I've used like very thin lines over here with like at the chin and at the thing, and with the whiskers and the nose and everything. But the outline over here is much thicker. You can tell. It's much thicker than the lines that I've used over here, and you can tell that I've done that with every sketch. This one also has this one, and that's just to emphasize that silhouette and to set the sketches apart a little bit more. I've done that in the ones that I showed previously as well, like this one. You can also tell that although it's a little bit more subtle, I've also outlined these with a bit of a thicker lines. Then I've done the more detailed work, and that's just you can do that with a different color. You can also do this with just one black outline and then a white outline around it as well. So like try and separate every single sketch from, you know, the other sketches on the page, so it doesn't look muddy. And that brings me to my last tip, and that is when you colour, stick to a colour scheme. It's seriously, it makes for such a wonderful, you know, contrast. Once again, contrast is such an important word. So in this page, for example, I've used mostly blue for the characters, and then you know, the complementary color of blue, which is orange. I don't have to tell you artists this, but so sticking to this color scheme of blue and orange, and then a couple colors outside of it, really helps a lot in terms of making this sketchbook page pop. Okay, so those are the tips that I have, and then I have a couple old sketchbook pages that I think could really benefit from this technique, from using these tips. So I think these are like a year old, maybe a little bit older. Yeah, like May 2020 and April 2020. So right off the bat, you can see with this first page is that it looks confusing. And that's because there's a lot of different colours going on. This page would have looked so much better if I just used one colour scheme. Also, as you can tell, if I zoom in a little bit, I didn't do this outline technique. So if I were to go around all these characters, actually let's do it right now and give every one of them just a silhouette, just go around it real quick. Just to so you can see which characters are actually which. I just do this real quick. Stop going into too much detail. But you can already tell how much of a difference this makes, correct? Look. How much this would have helped just this one sketchbook page. And yeah, so like I said earlier, there's also a lot of colours going on, so if I just stuck to like one colour scheme, this would also have looked a lot better, just in terms of, because there's just a lot going on, so you need to find different ways to separate every single sketch. You can do that like this is a really easy way to do it. Especially after you've done all this colouring, because I'm pretty sure this probably took me like a good hour at least, maybe even more, probably more, like an hour and a half something, to colour everything. Or I could have used, can you tell how much this helps separate everything? Because if you look at this, it's still quite muddy, but if you go over here, just look at those horns. Or like the shape of this guy, it looks already it looks like it's actually a couple different sketches instead of just one big blob of colour. So that's one thing that would have really helped with this. I don't think the composition of this is all that bad. I probably did plan this page out. I did cram in a lot, and I didn't fill any open spaces, so that's why just the shape of everything looks a little bit boring. So I could have just like added little things here and there, like wrote little comments like, oh, I like this sketch or whatever. Just add maybe little hearts or whatever. That would have already made it look a lot better. Yeah, so over here you can see that I have sketches overlapping, like I have Draco like leaning over Danzy here, or like here Smaug is over top of, I think that's FIVERR. So yeah, I didn't just learn all these tips like last year, but I did apply them a little bit better. So yeah, the contrast is really what's missing here, also because all the sketches are coloured in the same way. I think just adding a little bit more contrast, sticking to a colour scheme would have really helped this sketchbook page. And then this one I really like the sketches of, but I don't like the way that it's laid out on the page, because like I said before, there's no contrast. Everything is coloured in roughly, well, quote unquote coloured, everything has been drawn in roughly the same amount of detail, and there's nothing really distinguishing these sketches from each other, so they kind of bleed together. So there's a lot of detail in this as well. I think if I were to do this again, I probably wouldn't have drawn all the sports and every single cheetah. I think something that could have really helped this page is just adding a little bit of color. So let's just to distinguish, you know, the sketches from each other. So let's like, for example, just like put just a bit of color around this one, yeah. And now you could have done this with like paint or with gouache or whatever, and just, you know, adding a little bit like that, emphasizing this particular sketch, creating contrast, would have already, you know, really helped this page. Look at that. That already stands out a lot more. And you could have probably like emphasized this a little bit more. Just add like just add some color, and maybe color in this like square behind it. See how creating contrast like this is really so important for a sketchbook page to work well. And I could do these hearts in red, for example. You know, just add another outline. Maybe I'll do this just like one uniform size outline like this. I'm not trying to make it all pretty. It just this is just to show you what you can do. And I could do this, you know, I can do this digitally, but I can also do this traditionally. Like I said, I could use gouache, or I could use like a gel pen or whatever, and this would just really help this sketchbook page along. So yeah, I hope all those tips helped, and this maybe might give you some ideas. Yeah, I really enjoyed just filming a video again. I haven't done that in ages, so well, I did say ages, but I've just been doing a lot of animatics, which means not nearly as much voiceover as I used to do. But yeah, this was really fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a thumbs up. And once again, I've not been doing any YouTube voiceovers because I completely forget my outro every time that I do them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more art videos every single Friday. Have a great weekend, guys, and keep on sketching. Bye!